Hello, good evening, everyone. I think we're still waiting for our guests to come in to enter in Zoom. So we're gonna start just in a few minutes. So I do see Sandy is in. Hello, Sandy. How are you? We can turn on the camera. Yeah, we can turn on the camera if you want, if you're convenient. Yeah, we're gonna have a very good topic today with our guest speaker. Yeah, so hello. Hi, Kuno.
Hello.
Hi. Are we good to start or
Absolutely. I never like to wait.
okay, good. Okay, let's just get started. I'm gonna give everybody a brief introduction about you. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Janice. I'm the host today. So we're gonna have a very interesting topic today with our guest speaker. Yeah, so before we start our course today, I'm gonna give like brief introduction about him. But personally, I know him as a friend. Yeah, he's a very professional, like financial specialist. I know him for a while, but as a parent, I think the topic today, as we see, we're going to talk about smarter college funding today. I'm I'm a mom. I have a 5-year-old boy. So I always want to learn about like college funding. I want to see like what we can do from a young age. Like me, I'm like a 40 year old, you know. Oh, sorry, my age. So I'm a 40-year-old mom. I want to do something when I'm in a middle age time to like be prepared for my son. But I'm like I'm self like I'm a certified like a field trainer. I'm also an insurance agent. I don't think I have enough knowledge to prepare my son or myself to help our family to have enough funding about his college or in his university or future like the education plan. I tried to buy him like a 529 like many years ago. But like um I when I talked to one of my financial advisor, they told me the 529 there are some like pros and cons. So I stopped my 529. So I'm also a little bit confused, about college funding. So I think today, um, after today's course, I do believe Guno is going to give us a very big, uh, like a very, very good course for us to learn. Personally, I'm also very looking forward to that. So before that, let me tell you guys a little bit more about our guest speaker. So Guno Suchiono, he is a founder of Jiuxin Alliance. Also, he's a certified financial planner. He's chartered life underwriter, also like chartered financial consultant. He's also a certified financial educator. So he graduated with a master degree in mathematics from a famous university of Waterloo in Canada. So he has over 25 years of experience in the high-tech software industry. So he served as regional director of the Asia Pacific mobile division at a Fortune 500 software company. So later founded a mobile software company that was successfully acquired, transitioned into the US financial insurance industry, and become a college admissions consultant. He has successfully helped children apply for scholarships and college savings programs. So in 2018, he founded Galore Financial, a wealth planning company. So in 2021, he co-founded Jiuxin Financial Group, served as CTO. Okay, let's welcome Guno.
Thank you, Janice, for the introduction. I will say a little bit more about myself, especially as I'm talking about the FAFSA and college funding side. I think I have my certified financial planner, and one of the discipline is actually within the certified financial planner is not only just financial planning for individuals in terms of protection and estate planning and retirement planning. And one of the key component is to help them to, I mean, most of the family, one of the biggest expense is the college funding. So that's actually one of my specialties as well. As a certified financial planning planner, I actually charge a fee-based financial plan. So I don't really specifically do just college funding myself. But however, over the course of the time, I have been helping a lot of students. Actually, I have success of helping people to adjust their application a little bit or schedule or plan for the education planning so that they will actually optimize their financial aid. And also, I'm a father, so my daughter is now in the junior year, the third year, because of my training, although I would my family situation probably as beyond the financial aid side of things. But however, I've done it correctly so that actually you might want to know that something that you need to know that how you would need to do proper FAFSA to be able to get some scholarship as well. That's why my daughter was able to get a $20,000 scholarship from the college every year, although there's no financial aid. But how that's going to help a lot because it's going to help 25% of my college expense for her. Uh, she attended a private college for $80,000 a year nowadays, and then it's 20,000 really help every single year. So I mean this class is going to help you to open up. I don't think I can cover everything, but I'm hopefully this class will help you to appreciate the dynamic of the college funding. And I will actually also know that this FAFSA application and college funding has been changing every year. And for the past 2 years, there's a lot of changes that added into the application. Some are good things, some are not not as good, but I will disclose them as well so that you know how to plan for it a little better. So today's topic we are going to cover quite a bit of things, about 7 topics. Number one, we'll talk about the reason we need to do some financial planning for the college, especially on the cost crisis and the roadmap. And then I'm going to go deep into what is FAFSA. And if you haven't heard that term before, you have to get familiar with what it is and what is SAI. And then we'll talk about, how financial aid is being calculated so that you know the formula. And then we will talk about some of the new update of on the financial aid rules and there what kind of aid is available for the student. And then we'll talk about how do we optimize the financial aid, some of the try to avoid some of the costly FAFSA traps and also improve some of the funding technique. And then we're going to go deep into a little bit of some of the new update of if you have already purchased 529. I'm not a fan of 529, but however, a lot of people like Janice already purchased some 529. If you're not going to use it, what happened to it? And I have some good news about that going forward. And then we'll talk about some case studies and then open for questions. Okay, how's that? If you think you're ready, go to the chat box and type 111 so that I know that you are actually listening and ready to go. All right. Right, 111. So I always would like to see some interaction so that because we are kind of talking online, I don't know your face. I cannot see your face and reaction. So I need your interaction so that I know that you are actually paying attention, not sleeping. Okay. All right. Let's go. So the first topic is about crisis. Now, um, I already mentioned nowadays the cost of attendance for college for public school is at least 30,000 now. I'm talking about including room and board and stuff like that. In fact, in California, 30,000 is way too low. The UC system right now is talking about 40, close to 40 to 50,000 a year. 40 to 50,000 a year. And then for private school, it's at least $80,000. Just like my daughter is attending a school in LA, which is a private school. It's actually 80,000, which is the cost of attendance. But more scary is that it's not this the price tag right now is about the inflation. The cost of attendance have been inflated every year. Well, if it is kind of following the normal inflation, it's okay, right? Your salary will inflate along with the real inflation. But however, the problem is that over the course of a year since 1980, we have been seeing the cost of inflation for the cost of attendance for college is 3 times more than inflation. So if your inflation is, we are tracking something like the inflation of the college attendance is something close to 10 to 12%. For duration of that time, even the lowest time when the inflation is around 2%, it is tracking around 6% per year. All right. So and then that costs a lot of what? That will cost a lot of people not able to afford for college, and then they have to borrow. And then you can see the national student debt has been rising up. I mean, there's a joke that when people want to go to a doctor, I know some doctor who graduated as a medical doctor, they are easily carrying at least $500,000 of debt. And then you think doctors making a lot of money, but it usually take them about 10 years to pay it off. It's kind of scary. I mean, it will be getting worse and worse. Now, of course, another topic that I'm going to explore in the future is that worth for doing college in the future, especially AI is booming. That's a different discussion. That's something that we need to think about as well. But if you have decided to go to college in US, this is the reality. Unless you have other choices. For example, I know some friend who decide to send their kids to neighboring country like Canada. You might actually save about 2/3 of the cost because the Canadian cost of attendance on school is much less than US, right? So those are other vehicle you can do. But if you've determined to have your kid stay in the state and have to go to college, this is the kind of financial planning you have to face and be serious about that, right? And then, okay, today what we're going to do is talk about what is involved in the financial planning for college. Number one, we will start talking about how to understand the FAFSA application better, right? And talk about the SAI. What is the SAI? The Student Aid Index. It's the way to calculate how much financial aid a kid can receive, right? So that's important. Understanding the formula would help us to plan for it. And then we'll talk about some of the new rule that is being introduced in 2024 and 2025 that is going to get start to be effective starting this coming year. And then we will talk about some way to kind of reduce the student aid index. By the way, at the SAI, the goal for it is to want to reduce the student aid index as low as possible so you can maximize your financial aid as much as possible. So we'll talk about some of the way you might be able to lower the SAI. And then we'll talk about some of the changes that you would be able to spend your 529 somewhere else without any tax consequence, right? And then some case study at the end. Okay. All right. Let's go. So FAFSA. What is FAFSA? FAFSA stands for Free Application for Student Aid. Free application for student. As he said, it is free. And by the way, and it is although it is an option that for you to apply, and one of the mistake a lot of parents did is, or a student did is like, oh, I don't think my family's income is qualified for any financial aid, and then some other parents and students actually talk to me and say, "Oh, financial aid is a benefit that it should be only applied for by the poor. If I were, if I think I'm wealthy enough, I should not apply for it." That is a really big mistake that you think of that way. FAFSA is something that if you want to apply for college, every student has to and must apply. Although it's not forcing you, but you should apply. Why? Some of the things is that if you don't apply, basically you give up any opportunity to getting any funding anywhere, including scholarship, including merit base. If you are a good student, you think just like my daughter, right? If you think your merit or your GPA is good enough to get some scholarship and you did not fill out the FAFSA form, she will not get the $20,000 a year. You understand what I'm saying? It's not just FAFSA is not just for financial aid. Hidden inside the application, even a scholarship would look at whether you have filed FAFSA before they will consider giving you any scholarship. You need to do it annually. Even if you get into college every single year, you have to apply for this following year for the financial aid. Most of the time, you just have to go through the motion if there's no big change. But who knows? For example, during the COVID year, a lot of people lost the income, right? So if your kids were in the second year, if they filed FAFSA that year, when they didn't have financial aid, they might get financial aid because or the whole circumstance change. The people might lose the job, like parents might lose job, the economic situation may change. So every single year, you were encouraged to change or to file the FAFSA. Okay, so and then the once you've done the FAFSA, it's not guaranteed to everything will be free, right? So financial aid is to provide you money to do the college. Sometimes it is via grant, which is like free money that you don't have to pay back. Some are like work study. What is work study? Is that they would grant you some dollars so that they will guarantee a job in the school, cafeteria or library or whatever, that they would provide you that part-time job so they can earn some money. If you don't file FAFSA, you might not have the access to do that kind of stuff, to earn those money. And subsidized loan is a very, very preferred low interest and probably don't have to pay until you graduate type of loan. If you have something like that, optimize it, always take it. Why don't you want to take a free few years loan to get you through the college? Or why do you want to pump down the money before you have to use it, right? So a subsidized loan is really good to have as well. And of course, as I mentioned, a merit scholarship. If your kids is good at certain thing, they might get some scholarship that way too. So some timeline you have to, and this is why I want to rush a seminar like this today. Today is October 2nd. Every single year, October 1st, which is yesterday, the new FAFSA period opens up, right? So yesterday, the period is for what? 2026 admission. So if you have kids who is in grade 12 and going to college in 2026, you have to start filling up FAFSA now. And the application just opened up yesterday. Why does it matter? Why don't you want to procrastinate? Well, funding is very interesting. Especially public school funding is really first come, first serve. So if it's open on October 1st, I always encourage parents and students to finish up the FAFSA no later than the end of October for October. Okay. It might take a couple, it doesn't matter. You don't really have to file everything in the first day or two, but you really have to focus on having them done by the end of October. Then you will be in pretty good shape to get the first group of people to get the fresh money, so to speak, right? And there are like California, you see deadline is like end of November. So a lot of time the admission will not will be determined, and then the financial aid will be determined immediately after. So it is very important to have make sure that if you are applying for the UC kind of family of colleges, you want to have it done before the deadline of the admission. Okay, you have that all together. So no later than, I mean, it said December 31st. I would say no later than end of November, really. Okay, end of October to end of November is really your golden time to get it done. Of course, the deadline is not until June 30th, but I would say that by the time you delay and file the FAFSA, in the new year in 2026, you although you might be able to qualify for financial aid, the free money might be gone. All is left over is probably some loans available for you. So you don't want to miss the free money, right? So you want to plan and don't miss the opportunity to file it early. Um, Recently they changed the terminology. In the old days, we have been talking about EFC. I'm sure people who have heard me talk about EFC for a long time. EFC is for expected family contribution, right? That's what it means, right? They expect the family to contribute that much. That's the EFC calculation. They changed it. Although the calculation is similar, but they now call it student aid index, right? There's some changes in there. In the past, EFC, the lowest you can go is zero, but then the SAI formula actually can get the SAI index all the way down to negative 1500. Of course, if you're in the negative zone, that means you pretty much will get the full financial aid, right? So that the goal is to get it below zero, right? Zero or below. That's the goal of the SAI. And then the key impact is the negative SAI maximizes Pell Grant. Pell Grant is the federal financial aid grant, which is like basically they grant it to you and that's it. And this year, I think the maximum Pell Grant is 7,300 something. And then if you are in the negative uh, 1,500, you will get full pen grant, and then the anything below zero, you get full pen grant. But if you are in the positive range on the SAI, then the pen grant will be used to subtract the SAI. For example, if you have SAI score of 2,000, right, at the end, then your Pell Grant is probably getting about 5,300. Okay, so that's how the Pell Grant will be granted. So the SAI is a direct subtraction of how much Pell Grant you'll be getting from the federal government. And unfortunately, the bets is that starting from last year, 2024, it used to be that the if you have two kids go to college at the same time, one is in the junior, one is a freshman, for example. Um, the EFC, used to be called EFC, would divide it into the equal amount so that you actually have a lower because they expect the you have more burden to have two kids in the college. So the EFC will kind of divide by two, so you will get more financial aid for the two kids. But that's no longer. They removed that restriction starting in 2024. That means every kid going to college assume your full financial support. So there's no discount in there. So it makes sibling harder in that sense. In the past, one of the strategies that have a whole bunch of siblings very close together so that you really will enjoy financial aid for all the kids. But now, no. I mean, that means now the strategy is probably you want to space your kid out so that you finish 4 years for one kid and then then you don't have overlap of kids. Otherwise, your financial burden is pretty high, and you're not going to get much help on the financial aid. So the formula is very straightforward, right? So we go to look at the university and then see each college has their own cost of attendance. For example, private school probably 80,000, public school probably in California, UC is like 40,000, 45,000. Then minus the student aid index, for example, the index is calculated to be 2,000. Then the financial, they will calculate, oh, that means you need additional what, 38,000 for the financial aid. Then they will offer you a $30,000 financial need package by the college. How is it going to be? Well, of course, it's not everything is grant. As I already mentioned, the federal grant is maximum 7,300, and then maybe there is some state grant or other grant, or additional to that, there will be a work study and some loans and so on and so forth that make up that $38,000. Okay, but even though it's long, it's still helping you to cope with the financial needs that you require. So now let's see whether you guys are awake. I'll pull up a quiz. Uh, you see a quiz, right? So when does the FAFSA form open for the new academic year? Oh, you have four choices: January 1st, October 1st, April 15, and December 31. So please answer it on screen. You have four choices. Which one would be the right answer? If you have listened closely, you should have no problem to answer it correctly. I'll give you 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to close the poll, and then now you can see your answer. The answer is October 1st, as I already mentioned, right? So October 1st is the beginning of how when you want to file FAFSA. Okay, do you get it correctly? Yes. All right. Now I will continue on to the next topic. So, what type of rules change and some of the eight types that there are? So there's some rules that is the first one is just passed. It's the big how do you call it the big beautiful bill that is just passed that starting from this new season, the family-owned business that has less than 100 employees, its assets are now excluded from FAFSA calculation. Think about that. It's a great opportunity. All right. So if you really have, so a lot in the past, clients ask me, say, how I have quite a lot of savings and a lot of countable assets, but it's going to affect the FAFSA. How could I move it to a place where it can be hidden from the FAFSA calculation? We'll talk about what is excluded, in just a little bit. But however, business was not excluded. Business asset, business valuation is part of parents' asset that need to be included. But starting now, uh, if it is a family-owned business, it's not if it's partnership with somebody else, it doesn't count, right? So a family-owned business, if it's less than 100 employees, it's essentially a small business. Then you have opportunity to have your asset move into this kind of business as your working capital, and any asset in that small business is not countable for FAFSA calculation. All right. So think about that. There's a lot of strategy you can do. A family farm, if you have a farm, uh, it is excluded, right, from calculation. Of course, primary residence has always been excluded from from the calculation. Okay? And also one of the rule is that starting now is the Pell Grant. So, for example, I already mentioned the Pell Grant maximum per year is 7,300. If you are granted a Pell Grant at 7,300 maximum, you can actually still get more that year if your student decide to take 3 semesters instead of 2 semesters. It's called year round. So a lot of colleges have, normal year is about 2 semesters, but for some colleges there are 3 semesters. If your student want to accelerate their studying and finish earlier and do the extra semester, the Pell Grant will grant up to 150%. That means they will take extra term. So that year, if you have 3 years year-round attendance to school, you might get something like uh, $11,000, close to $11,000. That's great, right? So those are kind of things you can optimize for the grants. As I already mentioned, when they calculate the financial needs, it's not just grant. Grant is part of it, and it's probably a small part of it, because think about it. Even for UC, which is about $40,000, grant is only covering like 7,300. So you have still about 32,000 short. So how is it going to cover it? Well, most of the case, if you get the full financial aid, work studies probably cover about, in my experience, about 3,000 to 3,500 they will offer per year. And then subsidized loans, you're talking about, I have seen it up to something like $5,000, but very low interest rate. And then also you don't have to pay, and there's no interest calculated during school years. That means the interest is not even accumulated until you graduate. So there's like a free money for the college time. So anytime you got a subsidized loan, take it. Don't say, oh, I don't want to get borrow money. No, this is free money. Just take it. Take it and then pay it back at the end of at graduation. And then, of course, there's some unsubsidized loan. Unsubsidized loan will be much bigger. I think most of the remaining one will be kind of covered by the unsubsidized loan. There are also two types of unsubsidized. One is the kind of low. It's a normalized kind of lower interest rate, but however you have if you can choose not to pay, but however the interest is accumulated during the years when you study, but you have a choice not to pay and let it accumulate, and then start paying the principal and interest off once you graduate, which is not bad. And then there's a more expensive one is like basically a parent's loan. It is allow parents to borrow money to let you go to school, but that's really high. It's more commercial rate that is offered by the bank. Okay, but that's pretty much the spectrum. Of course, hopefully your student is strong enough and have merit base. Like for example, my daughter has $20,000 grant, which is great, and those are scholarship you want to add up. So though they will add them all up as a package offer according to SAI score and then according to financial needs calculated, and they will put them into a package when your student get admission to this college, then admitted to college, then this package will also be sent out for you to review. Each college will have a different package, so you can choose among the colleges to see whether sometimes the public school might not give you much. Sometimes private school might give you more, so you can do a comparison, see which one is more suitable and more cheaper to go to. Of course, your student might want to have a certain preference to go to a certain school. That's something that you want to discuss with. And there are additional to that, there's on top of it, this is the federal side of things, but on top of it, there's like Pell Grant that's up to $14,000 for qualified residents. For New York, it's like 5,000 maximum in-state students. And then there's also some tax credit you can when parents file income tax, if you meet certain requirements. By the way, this particular one, ATOC, AOTC, all the qualified CPA knows this trick as well. So it's a kind of like tax credit for certain people with certain income. They might be able to get the extra 2,500 per student per year if they are within that like joint married and make less than $160,000, right? So you want to keep all the receipts for the cost of attendance of the college. You get extra 2,500 a year when you file tax. Okay. There are more, but this is enough for you to understand there are different type of aid is available. So here's guts of it, right? Here's the scientific way of decision tree how FAFSA is calculating your SAI. So let's walk through it carefully, right? So how does it work? First, if you don't know, the FAFSA is going to look at income, both students and parents. So now it's 2025. And for people who want to file FAFSA today, they are filing for 2026 to 2027. So don't make a mistake. You are not applying for 2025. You are now applying for 2026. Okay. And it is open for that right now, 2026, for people who admit or who are attending school in 2026 fall. So what they're going to look at is income. How do they determine income? You have to file tax. You have to have record in IRS. And then they are only looking at 2 years ago tax return. So if you apply for 2026, they're going to look at your 2024 tax return. So for people who are already filed 2024, tax return in April, you're set. I know some parents like to procrastinate and delay until October. Some of you might not have finished your tax return yet. Rush it. You have to finish it before you can file this FAFSA. So your delay is going to affect FAFSA application date as well. So they're going to look at 2024 tax return and look at the AGI, adjusted gross income. That's not the taxable income. So when you look at your 1040 tax form, it is on the line 11. Line 11 is the AGI. They're going to look at that as a basis. Okay, that's not the taxable income. Is before all the deduction of tax is the AGI. Now, look, this is important, very important. If your AGI is less than or equal to $60,000, that's the magic line. If that 2024 return on the line 11 is 60,000 or less, and you are either receive some means test benefit. For example, what is means test benefit? That includes, for example, if your family member ever have qualify for Medicaid, which is like the Medi-Cal, right? Or some low income benefit or anything like that, you already qualify for this is called simplified SAI calculation. It's very important. If you didn't have all this benefit at all, but if you belong to the simple tax return. What is a simple tax return? Well, one simple thing to think about is that if all your income is mainly W-2, not from rental, not from your business, not from uh, other way of getting money or earning money, then it is simple. It's belonging to simple tax return, right? So if that's the case, either you are taking some government benefit or you are in a really simple tax return category and make less than $60,000, then you are in this asset ignore category. That means the SAI will not ask you for any question related how much asset you have. It doesn't matter you have many houses or many like mutual funds or stocks or whatever. They will not ask you anything. They will only look at this low income and calculate how much contribution. Easily, if your AGI 60,000, you guarantee to have some sort of financial aid, right? If your AGI is less than 36,000, you will get full of financial aid. Okay, so it will calculate go down like this all the way to SAI without even looking at assets. Now, if you're not in that category, then they will look at assets. But asset, there are countable assets and non-countable assets. For example, what they're going to look at? Well, they're going to look at your cash, savings, investment. If you have 529 plan, they'll count it as well. Any business equity, well, I already mentioned small business doesn't count, but any other like you have a corporation or partnership, they will also count it, right? So they will count it, and then you will see how much would it contribute to SAI? 5.64% of your assets will be contributed to the SAI calculation. For the parent's income, it's about 22 to 47%. It's based on the range of income. In the higher income, higher is the calculation. The lower the income, the lower will be the calculation. Right, 22 to 47%. Now, then it has to add up with student contribution as well. So we will look at the student, whether they're making money in 2024. If they make less than 7,600, it's okay. It's all exempt. But any dollar who make over 7,600 in the AGI, 50% of that dollar will be calculated into SAI. That's pretty steep. So if your student is planning to go to college, make sure that their income in 2024, well, you should plan ahead, of course, will not exceed the 7,600 mark. And student assets even worse. A lot of parents like to open account for student, right? For example, saving account or some Chinese parents even like to put their student put the kid's name into the property. That's this really bad idea because once you have the student have title of anything, the asset 20% of the asset is counted into SAI as compared to parents that's only 5.64%, right? So you really need to do some sort of asset allocation if you really want to optimize for the SAI calculation. So at the end, you add them all together, you'll get a SAI number. Once you apply for FAFSA, you finish all the forms, submit, the SAI number will come out either immediately or in a few days. They will give you a notification, and then based on the SAI, you pretty much know in your head how much financial needs that the college would be offering once the college send admission letter to your kids. Okay, so our goal here is to see whether we can minimize that as much as possible by all this lever that we have here. Okay, some of the FAFSA trap. I already mentioned that deadline is very important. You want to file early, so end of October and before the end of November, you want to have it filed. Uh, and I already also mentioned it's very costly if you have student asset title in there, including car. Right? So people like to buy a car for the student, if the student have the title. Don't do that. Parents, you should still have the title. If you want to give car to your kid, you have your own title and then let the kid drive it. Right. So you don't want the kid to have any asset really because it's 20% uh, uh, counted toward the SAI. Um, and a lot of people, I also mentioned, a lot of students and parents doesn't want to bother filing FAFSA and then ignore it because they think they make too much already. They don't want to bother. Big mistake. You might be missing out all the merit park scholarship as well. Right? Do not miss out. Even you say, oh, FAFSA is for public school system. I'm applying for Stanford and all the private school, so I will not do FAFSA. No, you still have to do FAFSA. In fact, all the private school, they have something called CSS profile, the college scholarship service profile that you have to file in addition to FAFSA. So regardless whether public college or private college, you have to finish FAFSA first, and then you do the CSS profile if you want to apply for private school. So you cannot skip that part. You have to file both. Here's a question. How SAI becomes negative? The calculation would make it negative. I don't know how, but I can explain how it can be. For example, if you're making, say, you're making if your AGI is like $5,000, really low income. Okay, in the calculation of SAI, there is a lot of deduction in there, right? One of the deductions is called family allowance. What is family allowance? Well, they look at your family size. For example, your husband and wife, two kids, that four people family. You might get a deduction for $50,000 allowance. Means uh, is that high? Probably, yeah, $50,000 or $45,000. So they will minus $45,000 from the $7,000. So you get the number what? Negative 30 some thousand dollars, right? The maximum they can go down is negative 15,000. For those kind of family, they get negative 1,500. So that's how the negative came about. There's deduction on the calculation part of the SAI, based on your family size, right? Because they don't want to say, okay, what is family allowance? Well, they understand each family needs some money to live by. So they are not going to consider all income to be calculated into SAI. So they have this allowance. I think about it as like exemption. So that amount would cause the SAI to go negative. Okay. All right. You can continue. If you have a question, you can put it on the chat box and I can look at it. Next. Now, let's see how we can optimize for SAI. Where's the area or opportunity we can do? There's some proven strategy to do, right? Number one, we already talked about some of the uncountable assets include retirement account like 401k, IRA, 403b. If you were to move money or if you plan ahead, 2026 is your kid going to college in 2024, um, you put more money into your 401k, 403b, or IRA, that helps because that means it will reduce your income. When you reduce your income, that means your AGI will be reduced, right? So that's one way. Um, and um, and then the And then, of course, utilize on the assets, I utilize some of the non-reportable asset or uncountable assets. For example, they will not count any cash that gather into the life insurance, cash value life insurance or annuity. You purchase annuities because they consider that it's not liquid money and it's something that you save up for your own retirement. So they are not going to put that into consideration for calculating the asset part of it. And remember, when you file the FAFSA, the asset is based on the date you file FAFSA. So if you have some plan, you save up a lot of money, ready for a big purchase, or you borrow a lot of money you haven't paid back, but you have enough money to pay back some loan. Remember, loan will not have a deduction against your SAI calculation, but asset will add to your SAI. So if you have there's some reason that your loan doesn't need to be there, like credit card loan, whatever, and you have assets to cover that, pay them off so that you will reduce your asset as well. So that's one of the things you want to do. And you don't want to have a big debt and a big asset linger around. That means it's going to hurt your SAI. And some of the strategies like time income strategy, I talked to a client a few years ago. They were doing business, and then and I said, well, you can you control your income to be below that threshold, like the $60,000, and for this year, so that you will not affect in 2 years the situation. They said they can defer their income because they have their business. They can control how the income being paid. And I say, do that. I say, do that. If you can do that, that means you are going to lower your AGI that year, which will affect how much financial aid your student is going to get. So you have delay bonus or something like that. Anything you can do, if you have control of how you get yourself paid, do that as well. So it's a very effective way of do that strategy as well. I already mentioned that I don't think I want to deal with it too long. If you have asset that is a student side of thing, like $10,000, you might want to think about moving that into the parent asset. Because you can see the SAI score is different by 1,500. That means you have 1,500 more financial aid you're going to qualify, right? And also one of the thing that if people really want to buy 529, for example, right? Uh, don't do it by parents. Uh, have grandparent do it, right? See, if grandparents is to put aside 529 for the grandkids, in the FAFSA formula, it never look at grandparents' income or asset. So the 529 money in the grandparents' own name for the beneficial of the student will not be affecting the FAFSA calculation. So if you were to want to do 529, do it uh, by the grandparents instead of parents. Okay, that's another tips that if you really want to do some 529. I already mentioned the asset exclusion for the business asset that are not counted for FAFSA. If your small business has 100 employee or less, and the goal is to lower the AGI. Right? If you have business, usually it's easier to do that. For example, even people have some Silicon Valley employees who is like really high income employees. I look at that as like it's like one person who are making like 200, $300,000. There's no room, and they have to spend a lot of income into paying for the college for the student. But if they were to have a side business, for example, a side business, having a business, you will have a lot of deductible business expenses. And that deductible expenses can offset your W-2 income. So that's another way you can lower your AGI if you have a side business running on the side to help you to offset a lot of costs in your daily living. All right. So as I already mentioned, you have double benefit. It simultaneously shrink both your income and you save some tax, and also you lower your SAI, so you can get more benefit on the financial needs side. Oh, let's look at some case study. Okay. Um, how a client can save like close to $8,000, get $8,000 more financial needs. Well, if you were if you were decided to say start a business, I strongly encourage to do a insurance uh, business because it's easy to start. You just need to get a very easy license to start. You get a license, you can already you don't even have to register a company, right? You don't really have to register a company. You can be a proprietorship, and you already become an insurance agent and set up a business account. And then now you have Schedule C, right? So you're already a business person. You can decide to incorporate the LLC or S corp. It's up to you too. For example, you make $100,000 as a insurance agent, for example. So you have a lot of control now. So you can lower your AGI by what? Contributing a lot of money. It's much, a lot more than what the 401k is allowed. You can put, for example, put a $30,000 into a solo 401k. So that asset, that's income, become an asset that is being sheltered from the calculation of SAI, and you lower the asset is not countable. The income is also being lower during that year, and then of course, and you make sure you're very low W-2 being issued for yourself. So just by doing that, you will be able to drop your SAI by approximately $4,000. Why? Why? Because well, you your say for example, they're only like $70,000 income, right? And then with the family allowance of 45,000, you already reduce it to like 25,000 AGI, not AGI, the SAI calculation. So you already save a lot of money, and then you will be able to get more on the financial need. If you do it correctly, you might even get down to the 60,000 level and then be able to shelter from the asset calculation, right? And get lots of financial needs. So that's one of the strategy you can do to do that. So let's do another quiz and see how well you absorb what I said. Just try to see how much you actually get. Okay, now you see the quiz two. So quiz two is a multiple choice. There's more than one right answer. So you try to identify which one is the correct answer. So which of the following assets is not counted in the FAFSA? The 15,000 in your saving account, B, 20,000 in a taxable brokerage account like stock, C, 25,000 in a 401k account, D, 30,000 in a cash value whole life insurance policy, E, 18,000 in Roth IRA, F, 12,000 in a parent-owned 529 college savings plan, G, 10,000 in student's custodian UCMA account, student account, okay? H, 40,000 in a family-owned business with fewer than 100 employees. Okay, so select all those you think would not affect your SAI. It's not countable asset in your SAI. All right, five, four, three, two, one, finish. End poll. Okay, now here's the result. You should be able to see which one you make it correct and which one is wrong. So let me go through the answer. A is definitely countable. It's saving accounts, right? It's cash. B is countable. It's taxable brokerage account. C, I already mentioned, any retirement account, qualified retirement account is not countable. So C is the correct answer. D, cash value whole life insurance policy is not countable, as already mentioned. So D is correct too. E, 18,000 in a Roth IRA, while in IRA account is a retirement account, is not countable. Okay, so DE is also correct. F, 12,000 in a parent-owned 529 college saving plan. Unfortunately, it's countable because it's parent-owned, it's parent assets. So F is not correct. G, 10,000 in a student custodian UPMA account. Well, student account forget what the student account is student asset. It's pretty, it's pretty bad. At 20% of it, it will be counted for SAI. So G is not the right answer. H, 40,000 in a family-owned business with fewer than 100 employees. Well, starting this year, that become shorter. So that is not going to be counted in SAI. So that is the correct answer. So correct answer is C, D, E, and H. Do you get it right? Okay, let me see. Okay, now you can see the answer. See whether you get it right. Okay. Ah, Manny, you're right, but you only get two right. Hopefully you get everything right. All right, let's move on then. Stop sharing. Let's go to the next topic. How's my time? Wow, 8 o'clock. Um, I'll promise to finish by 8:30, okay? Now, uh, uh, come to the seventh topic. It's called 529 evolution. Now, as I already mentioned, I'm not a good fan of 529. I'll tell why. Number one, 529, the good thing is that it is when you put money in the 529 is tax-free growth in there. And then when you use it for college, it's tax-free as well. Not bad. However, the problem is that it only can be used by the beneficiary for college purpose. So there's few scenario. If the student decide not to attend college in the States, you cannot use that. If the student decide not to go to college, you cannot use it. If the student have a lot of scholarship that doesn't have to use this, you cannot use it. So in some sense, what happens if you cannot use it? Well, there are in the past, you can either change beneficiary to a sibling if you have a sibling, or change beneficiary to yourself as parent, so that you will go to college and take some courses and use it up. Or you take it out, then you have to face all the tax of the gain as well as the penalty that you have to pay. So it's kind of whammy. And it's very restricted of how it can be used. A few years ago, they relaxed it a little bit. So if your kids have some kind of qualified expenses in school, in during high school, they can use it up as well. But that is again very limited. But starting last year, the Secure 2 Act uh, allowed the unused 529 plan or any 529 plan to be used to roll into Roth IRA for the beneficiary. What does it mean? Well, if the kids, for example, in the case if the kids didn't go to college, kids decide to go to other places to school, or it's just not able to use it up, the kids when they start working and they start to make some income, uh, then the tax system, IRS tax system, allow them to every year there's a limit how much Roth IRA they can purchase, right? Based on their income. Um, and then the maximum is $6,000 today, right? So for the kid, so they can moves roll about $6,000 every year if they're working into a Roth IRA. Essentially, it protecting that money will continue to be tax-free growing, and move the money from college to retirement. So, which is a good news. So, if people, parents who already have some 529, they want to move out, um, but the student has to work or have taxable income before they can do that. Once you want to do that, you can have the student kind of roll over those 529 into a Roth account, which is good. I mean, over time, the Roth is going to grow and it will be great for the retirement. For the grandparents who buy a 529 is even better because grandparents want to take care of the grandchild, whether it's school or retirement, right? So that seems logical, which is great addition so that we also can help a lot of parents who have 529 not to get stuck there and be able to help them to move some money for the beneficiary to Roth account. All right. So and I love Roth, by the way. So I think that's a good move. Um, However, because it had to go, the own downside is that every year there's a maximum how much Roth they can purchase or move from the 529. If it's $6,000, there's a maximum lifetime is 35,000. So if you have exceeding 35,000 inside the 529, too bad. The maximum you can roll over is $35,000, and it will take close to 8 years uh, to have it done, right? So it would take longer to do that, but at least that's one way out of the 529. So if you were not in the 529, I don't suggest you want to start a 529. There's other places you can save for tax-free college funding, and you can talk to any of our agents or myself if you want to. But if you already have 529, this is one more way we can help you to move money outside. Let's see what. Thank you. Max 35,000. Good to know. Okay, good. That's new, by the way. It's it just happened in a year or so. Okay. Oh, okay. Just a follow-up. For example, the scenario 2024 graduate has 20,000 left in the 529, and if he starts working and earn 60,000 6,000 annual from a part-time job, they can roll 6,000 into a Roth IRA, repeating until the 35,000 lifetime maximum is reached in 6 years. Right? And then if you move that in the future, it can continue to grow over the next 40 years to based on 7% annual growth, you can get to like $500,000 for your retirement, right? That's not bad. I mean, you don't even have you already like have it kind of started your retirement at nest egg uh, by your parents or grandparents. All right, your your point of action. Okay, you want to start doing it. If you have kids, hopefully your kids is not going to college in not next year. You have at least 2 years, then you can really plan well ahead to how to optimize for the SAI calculation. But if your kid's starting, no worry, do that because you still have an opportunity to optimize it in the second year, right? I say, you missed the first year, too bad. But hey, there's 3 more years. So you can still have opportunity to optimize the remaining years in terms of financial needs. So file FAFSA every October. Set a calendar alert. Early filing is critical. Second, know the new exclusions, right? Leverage the new rules for family business and farms, right? So if you have family business, you have a lot of leeway to move assets into the business. Three, shift and shrink assets legally. Execute a strategy before the FAFSA snapshot date. So I already mentioned, you file FAFSA, it will based on the snapshot of the asset that day. So you want to really do some juggling before that you finish the FAFSA application. And fund 529 with confidence. Well, I mean, if you don't have to fund it, don't do that. That's my advice. But you already have 529. We'll strategize how to move the money into the Roth account. Okay. Last quiz. Okay, last quiz. Let me open it. Here's the last quiz. Under the new Secure 2.0 Act, what's the maximum lifetime amount of unused 529 funds that can be rolled into Roth IRA? That should be easy if you pay attention at all. A, 10,000, B, 25,000, C, 35,000, D, unlimited. Five, four, three, two, one, and here's your result. You should all get it correct. 35,000 is the lifetime maximum for the transfer of 529 into Roth. All right, with that said, I have one one question's kind of pondering my mind. Is there a loophole in FAFSA? I think there is. Think about that. What happened to some people who is asset rich, low income? I know a lot of people. Actually, I know people who migrated to US recently, who has a lot of money carrying with them. So they purchase house, they have a lot of assets in stocks, in saving, in talking $1 million in their saving, and but they're not working at all. They're not working, and they file income tax, really low income tax, so that they were actually qualify for Medicaid, right? Your Medicaid, when you are below 65, they only look at income, right? And then if your income is below the threshold, you get free medical. Whether it's fair or not is that's the way it is. The system is set up like that. So for people who have a lot of asset, low income, they enjoy the government free medical coverage. Now, remember I just said the formula SAI. Do you think their child going to college will get any financial aid? Because we're rich family with millions of assets but low income. What do you think? Tell me and scream. Will they get, will the kid get financial aid for this kind of family? Will they or not? Type it in. I'm going to see your answer. Yes or no? Yes. Venice say yes. Anybody else? Hello, are you sleeping? I still see people. Only one respond. Well, remember the formula I just disclosed? The SAI calculations. If the AGI is less than or equals to $60,000, and if the family member has a Medicaid like benefit, any benefit like Medicaid, then the calculation will go to income only and no regardless of the asset. Then based on income only, because it's low income, it can easily get to SAI equals zero or below. Then that means the kids going to college will enjoy full financial aid. Is that right or wrong? Well, that's the way it is. Okay. Just food for thoughts. All right. That's the reality. Okay, now I'm done. So any questions? I'll get back to Janice and see whether you have any word for it, and maybe you can monitor some questions, and maybe you have some questions for me.
Thank you. Oh, it's a very great section. I learned a lot. And we even did a quiz. Okay, so do we have questions?
I leave my email
We can
there.
take,
If you are interested to contact me, you can. But however, I just want to make a disclosure. I don't do
okay.
consulting for free, so I'm a fee-based certified financial planner. But if you really have a need for financial planning, including college planning, do contact me. But now it's your time to have free question. I'll do my best to answer it.
Okay, I saw a question on the chat box. Gunnar, did you see? I think Da Gao asked
I already answered that during
how
the
SAI
talk.
becomes negative.
Yeah, I already answered that. There's
Oh,
a
you
family
have, oh,
allowance deduction. So in SAI calculation, if the family of like four, that deduction is something like $45,000. So if you make only like $30,000 minus the
mm-hmm.
$45,000, you get to a negative range.
Okay, okay. All right. Do we have any other questions? We have a few minutes if anybody.
I hope this is informative and useful for you guys. And I know not a lot of people are attending, but if you have friends and at least you know about some of the information you have here, you can share it. You can share it with your friends who have kids thinking about these things, and if they need help, they can point it to me as well.
Okay, Gunnar, there's a question in the chat box says, how much is your fee? How much is your
My
fee?
hourly fee is $350, and if I do a personal like full financial plan, not just a college plan, but do full financial plan, I can charge based on plan. Initial plan will be a few thousand
Oh,
dollars. So I have all this fee
oh,
schedule.
okay.
But if you want to do hourly,
Okay.
it's 350 now.
Okay. Okay. Here we have Gunnar's contact information. I think
Take
you
this
guys can take a picture.
opportunity. This session Q&A is free, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. I have a question. When is our next section? Do we have this like a following section?
Maybe we haven't planned that ahead. I'm looking at the feedback and stuff like that. This is like really the
Okay.
first. This is
Yeah, we're looking.
you might want to talk about this
This is the
series, right?
first
So
section.
we starting this new English-based series every Thursday
Mm-hmm.
evening and try to cover different
Okay.
topics. And this is the
Mm-hmm.
very first of it.
Okay,
So
okay.
we might circle back again. Um, but this
Mm-hmm.
kind of this kind of sessions, if it's running in the November, it's already too late. So
Oh.
there's an urgency if people are really starting to file FAFSA and stuff, they want to get it done quickly and understand what it is. So that's why we set it up today, just the
Mm-hmm.
second day of the FAFSA opening. But of course,
Oh,
for
very
general
helpful.
financial planning, yeah, I will entertain any customer anytime.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Thank you, everyone. If we don't have any questions, we're gonna be done for today. Thank you. And you guys have a good night. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.